All right, guys, welcome back to the podcast, episode 28 of the show. I'm here with my now regular sidekick, Paul, which is always nice to have some regular sidekicks to me.
It's always lovely to be with you. Afternoon, Alex.
Afternoon, mate. And I am pleased to announce our first international guest. We are joined, obviously, remotely, by Matthew Porcelli. Matthew, how are you, mate?
Good. How you doing, pal? From here, from New Jersey. Good to see you, Alex. Good to meet you, Paul. Just happy to be here and very honored. How you guys doing? All right?
Yeah, we're good, Matthew. Thank you for taking the time to speak to us because I know how busy you are, and we're going to touch on that in just a matter of moments as to how busy you are. But I just want to paint a very quick picture for our audience as to who you are and what you're about. So, you kindly sent me through a kind of a list of your accolades and affiliations and stuff yesterday. But just so people know who you are and what you've achieved in a very short space of time. So in 2024 and 2025, you were the Life Safety Alliance Top 40 Global Thought Leaders in Security. You were the on the Marquis Who's Who in America 2024 to 2025. You were CT Today Awards 2025 Most Influential Risk Manager of the Year. You were the Executive Lens Icons of Influence Top 5 Inspiring Dynamic Leaders in 2025. Rookie mistake for not on silent. You were the Acquisition International Magazine 2025 Most Dedicated Security Leader for the Northeast of the USA. Security Journal of America's listed as a top influencer in 2025-2024. The International Security Journal listed as a top influencer in 2023, and you won the US Outstanding Security Performance Award, the OSPAs, Outstanding Young Security Professional in 2023. So you got quite the Hall of Fame career.
Is there nothing he hasn't done?
I know.
And you know what? It's all it's really all blessing. And you know, the thing is, I sometimes kind of shy away from putting that on LinkedIn and stuff because I don't want it to come off as if I'm showing off. You know, really, you know, these are all very much blessings to me. And I was reached out. I know people that put in awards for themselves. And again, there's nothing wrong with that, you know, for some people. But to me,
Matthew, you should stick it on there. The hard work needs to be shouted about. I think you need to put it all on there.
And that's and you know what it is, and that's the thing is a lot of people in the industry feel they're not worthy. That's where people like me come in. I will, because I mentor a lot of people, and I tell them, yes, you are worthy, and if you don't think so, I'm going to nominate you for something, and that's what happened to me. So the least I can do is pay it forward to somebody else, and that's, you know, again, it's just, you know, and just being in the frontline security management industry now for 20 years, it's often something that's overlooked. And, you know, again, that little boost that is given, it means the world of difference because, you know, us, you know, the three of us that, you know, at some point, or anybody in that matter globally, whether me in New Jersey, here in the United States, you guys in the UK, or anywhere throughout the world, we're at a point where they felt like they were not valued, but they've, you know, through different membership organizations or a mentor at work, a manager, somebody lifted them up. And these were those opportunities that were bestowed upon me. And like I said, that's just a true blessing. That needs to happen more in the industry.
100%. I think one of the things you touched on there, Matthew, was hard work. Now, I'm going to touch on the affiliations that you're involved with as well, because when I saw the list, it blew my mind. So you are the Community Vice President for ASIS International. And for our viewers, a lot of these are international organizations. If you don't know who they are, look them up. So you're the Community Vice President with ASIS. You are the North American Hub President for the Institute of Security Risk Management. You were one of the co-chairs with the Frontline Operators Special Interest Group with the Security Institute in the UK. You are on the International Foundation for Protection Officers. You're a Master in Security instructor, easy for me to say, and an Ethics Committee member, and you're also on the Life Safety Alliance as a Secretary and as the Association Alliance's lead. So my next question is, how? How do you do it all? That's quite. I mean,
Um,
those affiliations there is enough to be a full-time job on its own. Never mind having a full-time job in the sector as
yeah,
well.
I mean, and not to mention being a husband and a father of three. Um, well, it's all about time management. I mean, obviously, my work, I'm a security manager work wise. Obviously, my work, my paid job comes first. But again, as we had already talked before we came live here, I really don't sleep well. So I have, I get up at 4:30 in the morning. I'm able to work and write and publish art. I do a lot of writing as well for different global periodicals and publications. Excuse me. But um, how I mean, I couldn't tell somebody what makes me tick. I mean, I could the specific formula I couldn't, but it's passion because there's an adage, and I'm sure a lot of people have heard this before: if you love what you do, you don't work a day in your life, which is true. Same thing for volunteering. I know for me that when I got into this field, I initially wanted to become a police officer. That's what I wanted. That was my identity. That was back in 2009, and then call it divine intervention or whatever the case was. That wasn't for me. So then I transitioned into the security field where I started at the entry level, took a huge pay cut, was faced by continuous scrutiny. Oh, you have a college degree. Why are you being a guard? Even though I hate that word because of the stereotype. And Alex, you'll know, as we've worked together with the Security Institute's FlowSig as co-chairs. That word doesn't even enter our vernacular. So a lot of these positions were either, that passion or drive was seen not only from the outside, but also I wasn't going to just be a stagnant ship, I guess you could say, as an analogy, just floating. When I try to teach this method, or whenever I've spoken at a seminar, webinar, or did it, wrote in a publication on leadership or mentoring and career coaching, I broke it down into four. So I have a four prong or four bullet points: immerse yourself, dissect it, execute, and maintain. So once you find your passion, immerse yourself in that passion, dissect what that passion is. So, for example, in the security field, find out, private security officers, it's not just standing a post. Okay. There's other level, those others, executive protection, counterterrorism, cyber. Then you find out what organizations, security membership organizations, ASIS, um, the Security Institute, uh, and so forth. For example, IFPO, ISRM, Life Safety Alliance. Then you execute on them. Don't be afraid to fail on them. And then you maintain your course, and it just comes naturally. People will seek you out for positions, but you got to be careful not to burn yourself out and just say no. I mean, because to quote a very wise Hollywood actor or character, Dirty Harry, man's got to know his limitations. Do not overdo it, because there are times where I found myself at that point. You have to know, and especially me, as being a father, parent or not, I should say, you just can't burn yourself out, because sometimes it is taxing, but you reap the benefits of it, especially if you do help somebody out in the end.
So what actually drew you into the industry, Matthew? Because I mean, I know you talked about like wanting to be a police officer and working in law enforcement. Was that then just like a natural transition?
Well, really, because I mean, I'm a man of faith. I was raised Roman Catholic. I still, my family and I go to church religiously, pun intended. So the Pontifical Swiss Guard actually inspired me to go into security. Now, my name Matthew. A lot of people think Saint Michael is who is the patron saint of police officers. Matthew is actually the patron saint of security. I took that to heart when I found that out. They may think it's tax collectors, but he's actually, if you look it up, he's also the patron saint of security. On top of the Swiss Guard, something with that, and I remember my wife and I were at the time we had 2 miscarriages, and then with our third attempt, we had she was pregnant with our first, our third child, and we went to St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York City, where we met Cardinal Timothy Dolan. We asked him to bless my wife's womb, and I had my wife had bought me a Vatican lapel pin, and I always wear it. If you ever see me in person or in pictures, you always see the Vatican lapel pin with the CPP lapel pin below it, and I'll always, that's more or less my trademark. And I said to Cardinal, I said, "Your Eminence, I know I don't have blonde hair or blue eyes, and I'm not Swiss, but I have a deep admiration for the Swiss Guard. I'm in the security field. Can you please bless this?" So he blessed it, and to me, it's a calling, not a profession. I'll always, again, some people do it for a job. To me, it's a calling. That what's ushered me, protection has ushered me into this field. It's not a play money. I'm not doing this, as we had mentioned before the call. I'm not doing this just this is just a job. I'm just paying bills. I know people do it, for the money. And yes, I mean, realistically, we do it. We do have bills to pay. It's nice if we didn't have to pay bills. And, yes, I have a mortgage, children, bills to pay. However, when it comes to the actual passion and the reason why I feel I'm on this earth is to protect people. And that's why I take it to heart. Call it whatever you want. Call it divine intervention or cheesy, whatever you want to say. But that's what I believe.
So it's Harvard Protect that you're with at the moment. What
Harvard Protection Services. Yep.
What does a typical day look like for you, Matthew? If you can call it.
So I have a team. So we're contracted by a client, and we oversee my specific sites that I oversee right now are on 2 Class A corporate buildings on the Hudson River on the New Jersey side. I have a team of about 25 security officers, and we oversee everything from access control to camera operations, CCTV operations, stuff you would see the typical security officer doing. However, typical is not in my training vocabulary. One of the things that I always like to infuse is that, and I've done this throughout my training gamut, because before this, I was in aviation and airline security at Newark Airport, and right over here, not too far. And what I used to do was I used to train security agents when we had contracts with international airlines, and I used to tell them that you may be guarding an aircraft, but just like an airplane, but this could be an air-to-ground missile that could be used as a weapon. And if you want a reminder, look across the river at where the World Trade Center was. Just like any bag, unattended bag could be a potential IED, and so forth. Just like, and then same thing with social engineering, and that I teach my staff all the time too. Emails that come through, and again, it may seem mundane, and a lot of security officers are not used to this, because a lot of our competitors, they just put a pulse on a post. Like Harvard in general, like we do a lot of safety training as well, which is really, again, proactive safety mitigation training. So typical days is just more, training, maintenance of working with my staff and so forth.
Do you find that for someone to be successful in your buildings in your teams, they have to almost have that same passion, that same drive that you have? Does that kind of like bleed its way into your teams?
Yeah, I'd like that. I mean, I have to be realistic that they're not going to be a careerist like me. Not everybody will. Unfortunately, most people so I find that the new hires, the ones that are, that maybe, I mean, the best kinds would be the ones that are just coming into the industry, that I could help guide them, that haven't been, let's say, corrupted by bad managers in the past, because there are a lot of them out there.
And I'm also sorry, Matthew. I was just going to agree. I'm also for bringing in fresh blood that haven't been corrupted. if you like, or haven't been in the industry where yeah, it's not even corrupted isn't the word really. It's more that typical guard that just wants to, I just stand here all day. Because my belief in security at the moment is probably 30% of it is security, and the other 70% is kind of client led, and the kind of little mini facility managers on building on sites, where they're looking after a building or a reception. It's not just the security you're looking after. And yeah, that idea of just being a body on a post is not something we agree with. And if you can attract that person from outside the industry to get any kind of the ambition that you have, it's few and far between, isn't it? But they're great when you can get them.
And you know what? That's a good point, Paul. And you know what it is too. And I found, and this is the hardest part. I don't know for you. I mean, I know I was able to do this a few times, but a lot of people, I'm the first to admit that security officers don't get paid the way they should, and unfairly enough in the contract industry, people believe that the security companies pay them low. That's not the case. The clients get billed and pay for the service. The security companies would pay the high amount. Again, realistically, yes, I understand there's budgets and so forth. I get that. You have a good manager or supervisor that treats their security officers like people, like security professionals, not a number, not a guard. That monetary value may not be an issue to them. I mean, yes, I mean it makes a difference. So you have to make sure that you fight for your team's livelihood to make sure every year contracts are updated and so forth. But when you focus on the person, mold the person, their mentality, their attitude, even if that person is not corrupted, even if that person has been wronged in the past. I mean, I like the challenge because it's sad. But I usually can really kind of like sway a person to the good side of security, not the negative side, because I've seen, once they could open up and confide in me, I could tell them that there is a career in this field, there is a career in this company. And again, the best way, and I do this with all my training, is throw a real world example. If I were to sit there and read with a terrorism is bad, explosions are bad. No, I'm gonna say on this date and time, this happened, that happened. If you click a phishing email, so and so will happen. This happened on this date and this time. To draw some reference to not only if this happens on the job, but if you're out with your family, you see an unintended bag. You guys should see me on an airplane. I'm looking around so much and in an airport. I'm in the galleys talking to the flight attendants. They're probably looking at me like, "What the hell is this guy doing?" But 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 yeah, I mean, but it's in my DNA makeup. I mean, that I'm on a whole different level. But I think you guys could guess what I'm implying, though. It's just you're treating the person.
Yeah, we've all been guilty
Yeah.
of.
It's interesting, Matthew, because a lot of what you've just said is absolutely transferable to the industry in the UK right now. A lot of people see the security industry in the UK as low skill. I know we've talked about this with the institute, but low skilled, low paid, disengaged staff. Whereas there's an initiative in the UK called the Real Living Wage. So this is a foundation set up that determines what someone should earn as a minimum in order to live a comfortable life. And at Adept, we only pay what that real living wage is or above, obviously. And we found industry breaking retention levels with staff, great engagement from staff and all that kind of stuff. So I mean, what you're saying is absolutely transferable over here, and you'll know that, Paul, because you've just come from the front line.
Yeah, absolutely.
In itself, and we've talked about getting I love that term, non-corrupted people into the industry.
But it works.
Some of your best staff.
Some of our best staff are proof of that. I'm not going to name names, but they know who they are, and it's probably the same for Matthew over in the US.
I mean,
It is. It is. You're right. No, no, I'm concurring. You guys are absolutely correct. The same thing over here. Not just on the East Coast either.
I'm going to say, because you obviously you travel around a bit and you've got quite a far, well, global reach with a lot of your publications that you do as well. Um, what I mean, are those issues that are transferring kind of across the globe, across the states? Is it the same thing that we're seeing over here?
Yeah, it's not just a U.S. thing. We just the IFPO we just did some we just had a call with somebody over in India. It's the same thing. It's really the problem is the stereotype. It's getting a little better, but the stereotype is so bad in some parts of the world because managers and I've been an ops manager. I've been an ops manager before where I oversaw 57 sites and 350 officers. A lot of it depends on the workload and a lot and it, you one person can't oversee all that workforce. That's the thing, and there's a bunch of things. There's resources, um, lack of drive from the management. I mean, it doesn't matter what company you work for. But then again, we could say, and I say this with all due respect, once again, to all our people that, regardless of where they're coming from, if they're doing this as a second career, I've heard this so many times. Matt, I'm just doing this for play money, or I'm just doing this to get away from home, which to me is just disgusting. I think that, then I have no shame in saying that. That is just deplorable. Deplorable, not deplorable, deplorable.
Well, yeah, because I mean
But yeah,
we're an industry, aren't we?
yeah,
That's here
Alex,
to protect.
Yeah,
yeah, exactly.
when he was
If
saying
you,
it, yeah. Sorry, Matthew. When you were saying that, then
no, go ahead, William.
I'm just kind of thinking, what would a client of ours say if we just
And it
And
happens.
even Paul, actually, even worse. I'm just here to look at someone or a gender of people. Let's just say I'm just here to look at the girls walking through the turnstiles. I remember I said that, and I said to the guy, and he's married too. I'm like, are you serious? I mean, I'm like, I said to the guy, like, are you? And this was my superior
Matthew?
at the time.
I'd just send he or she home, and I'd just stand there myself.
Yeah, I'm like, are you serious? I mean, I was like, and again, they're just yeah. So it seems like all the right people are on this call are in the industry, and again, that's where the whole screening of some of these managers and people come from. That's why, again, as you can see through our cousinly relationships, the UK and the US, it's not just in the UK and the US. It's not in Australia, India, Canada. It's all over.
It's interesting. I mean, so in terms of like the affiliated organisations that you with, like the likes of ISRM, ACES, Security Institute, what piqued your interest into getting involved with those in the first place?
Because I refuse to let the stereotype overtake me. Because if I'm going to envelop myself in something, this is when I first started out in the industry. If I'm going to put my heart and soul into something, I'm not going to just stand for the bare minimum. I saw from the first time on post that the officers I was working with. Now, at the time, I was working as a floater or flex officer, they call it, 16 hours a week, 6 p.m. to 2 in the morning in a hotel parking lot. What was it? Driving around in a plow truck, believe it or not, with a light on, make sure they weren't stealing cars. Now, not only was, and which is even crazier because I wasn't even probably authorized to drive this truck, which I don't. Yeah, I'm glad I didn't crash this truck first of all because of the big shovel on the front of it. But you could just see the attitude of passivity. And again, fresh off a college degree, and I'm like, you know what, I'm making a career out of this. And like I said, I am going to make sure to immerse myself into this so that I can really, this is my career. And then just one opportunity led to itself. That's the beauty of volunteering, is that, and I recall somebody said to me once that volunteering your services to somebody is wonderful, which it is. But when somebody reaches out to you to volunteer or to write or to head up something, that itself is also very special as well. And that's just so what has happened to me since the plow truck with the light on the top till now. And that hotel is still there. So I guess that plow truck, though, I don't know if that thing is still there, though.
So I mean, in terms of, I mean, surely there can't be much more bandwidth for yourself in terms of other organisations, or is there other stuff that you'd like to get involved in, or?
You know what? I feel like that my volunteer leadership is more or less. I mean, I'm 40 years old now, so everybody thinks I'm in my 20s. I'm really not. Um, I mean, I'm set with my organizations that I'm in now. Um, the sky's the limit, really. Like as of right now, I'm just looking to help spread the message, really, because there's more work to be done. I advocate for, and I'm not going to stop advocating for our frontline security professionals. I mean, that's my primary. Anything that I've written, 98% of it has got a promotion of the frontline security officer in it. For example, one periodical I write for EP Wired, which is based in executive protection. I would write for how frontline security officers by a turnstile, for example, in essence, they're executive protection agents also, because when the C-suite walks through, they are protecting them up until they get from the non-sterile area, which is the public lobby area, to the sterile area past turnstiles. Or, as an advisory member of the Crisis Response Journal, how is your frontline security team and your don't forget your janitorial services, our engineering services, how imperative are they to our crisis response and so forth, and
That is
information
absolutely
sharing?
true. That is absolutely true. If there's,
But
in any building that has those individuals, they're the first people at any crisis, at any alarm. They're the first people that are covering doors, covering escape routes, and that's not just here.
and
That's
how
obviously
often are
everywhere
they
else.
overlooked?
Yeah,
And they're overlooked almost all the time. And the thing is, if I'm going to get my information, see, in the United States, we have the Uniform Crime Report the FBI puts out every year. I don't know if you guys, I believe somebody in the UK told me, and forgive me if I got there. There may be something similar to it, but the detective bureaus in the United States, they put out, everything from like murder, robbery, rape, domestic violence. All the police departments and the detective bureaus have to funnel it to the FBI, and then they put a report. It's a public report that goes out, the Uniform Crime Reports, and they can track trends and so forth. So my version of information. This is my little analytical side where I could, if I'm going to be able to get reports and collect data from those sources, whether it be the going to the janitorial staff and asking what area is the most exposure to damage during a crisis, during a natural flooding, or what part is more corrosive, and my security officers who have been here for 20 years would know which points of vulnerability of points of access. All that is invaluable information, but it's untapped usually all the time.
Is there like an open flow of communication between like traditional law enforcement, detective bureaus, and a company like yourself with a manager like yourself? Is there information sharing? Because we do things like that in the UK that they're called breakfast briefings, where like local police, relevant security managers, and things like that will meet and they'll share information and talk about. I just wonder if that's something that transfers across with yourselves.
Yes and no. It depends, just like with the managers and the officers and their performance. It depends on the department on both ends. That's where the urban resilience models come in. That's something big, for example, with the ISRM. See, urban resilience is a lot of companies look at that. We're reliance upon each other in the midst of a crisis. So for me, I like to liaison with whatever jurisdiction the law enforcement jurisdiction falls within like for example, Jersey City Police Department is the city of Jersey City is where my buildings are. So they have uh, waterfronts. They used to before COVID, waterfront security meetings and so forth. But we have an East District. We have a liaison that we could get information from and so forth. Unfortunately, in some parts of the states, there are silos that are thicker than others. Then you have some that are reluctant to share any information. But back to urban resilience, when it comes to sharing that information, it's also sharing resources as well. That's why, a lot of security managers, people think you have to connect with only law enforcement, but they would think go to like the supermarket, because if you need water and so forth, like people don't realize, and they used to do this at the airport all the time, reliance upon other carriers to assist each other. But back to what you were saying, Alex, with law enforcement, I think that because I remember I did something for ISJ regarding it was called regarding a turf war, because there's kind of a turf war between private security and law enforcement, but again, jurisdictionally, it's depends on where you land. You may get the old salt, and then you may get the young green, as they call it, the green kid. Like then you may get the other way around, the young kid, and then it depends.
Just what you were talking about before, the way that people react to different things. So from obviously you've been in security now for over 20 years, Matthew. Have you seen a difference in the way people react to frontline security since the likes of 9/11, like we probably did in London after 7/7?
Oh yeah,
Have you
yeah,
seen
yeah.
and I know it takes for something as terrible and as shocking as them incidents to happen for people to react, but have you noticed a big difference since 9/11?
Yes, I have. I have seen that everybody, and I'm probably you guys after 7/7 have seen this too. Unfortunately, it takes a crisis for people to wise up. It does. Everybody and their sister after 9/11 started a security company because they knew that people were scared and they knew that's where the revenue was coming from. Doesn't mean that that was everybody's intention. It was to be greedy, but it was an awakening. It was an eye opener for people. Now, with anything, there's a lull. Something happens. I mean, you look. There was something on LinkedIn, and I wish I could find this picture. I have to Google it. It was you guys probably have seen it. It was two jars. One had money. It said securities budget before a crisis or a serious incident, and it had like about like change, and then after, and it was full. But then people don't realize that if there was a, would you rather, again, it's all about, would you rather pay off after, like, because a tarnished reputation or damage to a facility or property, life, and so forth, what is that worth? What would you have to pay for that? I mean, again, it's a good investment, but I have seen that there's a lot of passivity in the lull period, but then something happens, let's jack up security, you know, and same thing in the UK, I'm assuming.
100%, 100%. So that is something, another transferable trend in the industry. I'm just looking at the clock, Matthew. Our time in the studio, sadly, is just about to come to an end. So we are going to have to wrap up our episode now. I'd love to get you back on because I feel like
100%.
there's so much more
Yeah.
we could
Yeah,
dive
absolutely.
in if we could pin you
No,
down.
I
for
really think I love this conversation. Yeah, and you know me, I could probably talk for hours until they say, Matt, what are you doing in there?
but listen, I mean, like we've touched on, I know how busy you are, and I know the most precious thing someone can give you is their time. So thank you so much,
Yeah,
sincerely,
absolutely. Much
No, I
appreciated.
for
thank you.
talking to us. Would love to get you
Thank
back
you.
on again when we've got a couple of hours, hopefully, where we could
Yeah,
have
absolutely.
a deep dive into some more topics. But thank you again, Matthew, and we'll speak again soon.
Thank you, my friends. Be safe, all right? Take care.